Welcome to our 26th episode of Comic Watchers. Comic Watchers is brought to you by Comic Watch. Comic Watch is your source for all your comic book and media news and reviews needs. Don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Spread the word that we're coming for the clickbait sites. It's our turn now. I'm your host, Cody. I'm a little bit under the weather, and I've kind of lost my voice, but I've got my tea, and I'm here for you guys. We're also down Brian, who has a work thing, and Derbs, who has some other thing. If we had recorded yesterday, we would have been without Matt. So, I mean, it's just scheduling snafus, but we're here. We're doing our best to bring you all the latest and greatest stuff in the comic book world. And now to the rest of my crew.
Hey, this is Matt coming at you from Oklahoma City. You can follow me on Twitter at TheUncannyMatt and also on comic-watch.com.
Hey, I'm John Jack. You can follow me on Twitter at JohnBatusiJack or find me on my Facebook group For the Love of Comic Books. What do we have for news there, Mr. Matt?
So yes, I will be haphazardly doing the news because our beloved Brian is not here with us this week. So Shazam opened last week. It opened to a $53.4 million domestic box office, which is pretty awesome. It brought in about $102.3 million in the various foreign markets. So altogether, it's more than earned back its budget, which was around $80 to $100 million. Very awesome stuff. It looks to be tracking like it'll track around comparable to Ant-Man's numbers from 2015. Which ended up around $160 million. Quick hot takes, guys. What do we think of Shazam?
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, okay then. Wow,
I also haven't seen it yet. Did you see it?
I did see it. I thought.
What did you think?
Okay, I guess I'll take the baton on this one. It was really enjoyable. I kind of felt like there's a lot of table setting until Zachary Levi shows up, and then it's just full blast. Couldn't be more fun. My single biggest complaint is probably that the third act seems like it drags on a little bit longer than it should, but I can live with that. I mean, this is a thoroughly enjoyable movie that, even more so than Aquaman or Wonder Woman for that matter, resets the tone for the DCEU. So I'm hoping that we see more from this franchise and more from this director. News item number 2, Disney Plus. Disney's upcoming streaming service has announced some marvelous shows. Hawkeye is going to get his own series starring Jeremy Renner, where it appears anyway that it's going to be about him passing his bow on to Kate Bishop. Hell yes. And then they've got 2 docuseries planned as well. One is called Marvel 616. That is more about Marvel, its cultural tie-ins, its history, etc., etc. And then the second one is a non-scripted docuseries called Marvel's Hero Project that explores Marvel's impact on some kids. So very cool stuff. Fandango has reported that Avengers Endgame pre-sale tickets have outsold Avengers Infinity War pre-sale tickets 5-1, which is insane. And yeah, good luck getting a pre-sale ticket at this point. In actual comic news, DC has rescheduled Batman Damned twice now, pushed it back to June 19th release. Batman Damned number 3. And Doomsday Clock number 10 has been rescheduled for the 4th or 5th time for May 15th. So that's actually almost a month after its original solicitation, which isn't the worst ever. But 2 months.
2 months after the original.
Yeah,
2 months after the original solicit on a bi-monthly title.
Yes. It's still better than the 15 months between League of Extraordinary Gentlemen numbers 4 and 5. Marvel announced that this July, The Invisible Woman is going to have her first solo title for the first time in the character's 58-year history. It's going to be written by Mark Waid with art by Mattia de Iulis. I hope I didn't murder his last name too badly. AMC has announced that their adaptation of beloved DC Vertigo series Preacher is ending after the upcoming 4th season, which doesn't begin until August. There is another Walking Dead spinoff show starting next year, which, whatever. Gerard Way's pop-up imprint with DC Young Animal is returning in July. There have been 3 series announced for it so far. A new Doom Patrol series called Weight of the Worlds. Something called Far Sector by author and first-time comic scribe N.K. Jemisin, and another book called Collapser by Mikey Way and Sean Simon.
That Far Sector actually looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's a brand new Green Lantern in a city, kind of like an Equilibrium-esque city with no feelings, or a planet with no feelings allowed, and crime starts happening for the first time in hundreds of years.
Oh, wow, that is a good concept.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, the Young Animal books are nothing if not interesting.
Yeah, my rule, or my takeaway from the Young Animal books is, like, depending on your varied tastes, there was usually one that would appeal to you. like for me, it was Cave Carson. Cave Carson as a cybernetic eye was a total delight. But a lot of the other books I wasn't super into. But I know other people who rave about Mother Panic as their, it is interesting also that Young Animal is returning, but none of the original series except for Doom Patrol are continuing.
Well, so and even that, it's being co-authored by somebody other than Gerard Way, and I didn't know who it was, but that I don't.
Well, hopefully it comes out more timely fashion. Hopefully it comes out in more timely fashion than the previous.
Right.
I don't know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, you're good. Conversation is why we're here. But anyway, that is it for news this week. Cody, back over to you.
Hey, all right. That's a lot of great stuff. Some not so great stuff. It's all good though. So we have 3 books for you guys this week, all number 1s all the time. So we're gonna cover War of the Realms number 1, Major X number 1, and Section 0 number 1 from Image or Guerrilla Comics if you want to dig deep. Let's start with War of the Realms number 1. I'm gonna kick that over to JJ because nobody is more jacked for this event than him.
It's true. War of the Realms number 1 from Jason Aaron, Russell Dodderman, Matthew Wilson, and VC's Joe Sabino. And I did not know I was going to be summarizing it, so this is from memory. The book starts. So the book starts out with Thor with Loki crashing down in Thor's boat, which Thor's been living on a boat, and telling Thor that he needs help. Loki's been stabbed. At that time, a bunch of dark elves attack. Thor smashes all the dark elves with his magic hammer swinging, which is a little silly or a little strange because previously only Jane Foster Thor had the ability to throw her hammers and have them do things, which Hawkman's also been doing recently for some strange reason with no explanation. So, maybe it's just going around. Simultaneously, Odin is attacked in Asgard. Odin has been standing solitary vigil over the remains of Asgard in the attempt to bring the former realm, or his former realm, back to its original glory following destruction by the forces of Malekith, Mangog, the Shi'ar, just so many people. And so Odin is attacked successfully by a large number of dark elves, which does seem a little strange unless you know that Odin is at basically an all-time low power wise. He, with Asgard destroyed, he has no wellspring of power to dwell on or to draw from. So the Odin force is at an all-time low. Like, he's still probably around the same strength as Thor, but he isn't quite the omnipotent, unstoppable force that we would have seen previously. Um, so we go back to Thor. Thor demands to Loki to take him to Malekith, who, and so Malekith is the king of the Dark Elves and the what would you call it? The head of the War of the Realms, the one perpetrating all the bloodshed across the 9 realms. He is joined by Ulik the Invincible, who is king of the trolls, Cinder, the queen of cinders, who is Surtur's daughter, Dario Agger, who is a corrupt Earth CEO / Minotaur. He's a shapeshifter for reasons that have not been explained 5 years or 6 years into the run. And the Enchantress, maybe not the Executioner, and Laufey, the King of the Frost Giants.
And Heaven.
Oh, and the Queen of the Queen of the Angels. Thank you. Who I believe have not seen. I can't remember.
I don't
if
know.
She showed up. It was in the.
I don't think so.
It was in. It would have been in the original Sin spinoff, Thor and Loki: The 10th Realm, which was like years ago, and I don't actually specifically remember. But so Loki agrees to take Thor to Malekith, and they next thing you know, they're teleported to Jotunheim, and Thor is surrounded by frost giants. And the panel layout in this page is just I love it, because you have all the frost giants pointing spears directly at Thor, and all the panels are pointed as well, and it's like a really cool, like, kind of all focal stuff all pointing at Thor, and it's really interesting. And Thor immediately thinks it's yet another Loki betrayal, but of course it's Malekith can do maybe not everything Loki can do, but he is close to Loki levels of power. So Loki or Malekith, and it was Malekith in Loki's form, basically pulling a Loki, who lured Thor to Jotunheim, and then teleports away immediately, leaving Thor alone to fight hundreds of thousands of frost giants. We cut back to Earth, and Spider-Man is swinging around, thinking, thank God nobody's tried to kill me yet today, and of course, someone immediately does. I love the panel of his spider sense going off. It looks like the acid just kicked in. And he looks over and sees Freya fighting dark elves, and swings down to lend a hand. Between Freya and Spider-Man, the Dark Elves are dispatched pretty quickly. It is a little strange that these same Dark Elves were able to get the best of Odin, but Spider-Man and Freya managed to take him down. Not that Freya is not formidable in her own ways, but it's kind of a strange, inconsistent power levels, I guess you could call it. Because Dark Elves aren't much stronger than a human. Like, a human could probably take one-on-one in a fight. They're just kind of better equipped in ways because they have some magic weapons and stuff. And then the rest of the Asgardians come out. There's only like 10 uninjured Asgardians on Earth or around right now. There's a lot of injured and sick Asgardians following Mangog's attack in sickbay, including Volstagg, who was formerly the War Thor. So I would actually really hope that Volstagg wakes up and either comes at it as the voluminous one or as the War Thor. Honestly, it's really funny because Volstagg is always played, or he always kind of talks himself up like he's this unstoppable warrior, but then you never actually see him, almost never actually see him fight. Like, he'll always just be standing on a pile of knocked out bad guys and be like, I took him out. What were you doing? But you never know. Like, is Volstagg really as badass as he says? I would love to see Volstagg wake up and kick some ass. Um, but so they all they gather up just as a portal opens via Malekith's Black Bifrost in Midtown Manhattan, and just bad guys start pouring out of it. You know, frost giants, trolls, angels, fire goblins, just whatever you can think of from you know in context of the War of the Realms, I guess. Um, but and at the head of it all are the generals of the war, Malekith and all of them. And Malekith walks out and does a say hi to your new bosses, and he's kind of talking smack. And I like the giants. I thought the giants were funny. There's so many more things to knock down now. Like, knocking on windows looking for Vikings. Like, I thought that was really funny. And of course, the Avengers show up and assemble and all that. Freya almost gets hurt by Laufey, but is stopped by Loki, and Laufey does some stuff to Loki, which honestly, anybody who reads or who sees that and doesn't think Loki's fine and he's like standing around the corner and Laufey just ate a big bag of trash or something has never read a Thor comic before. He's like, you ate a big pile of dog poop.
Or seen a Thor movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's really funny that Thor immediately fell into Malekith's trap, because Thor, more than anything, in his most defining trait of all time is his insane ability to fall immediately into any trap before him. Like, he did it in his first appearance, and then again, like 3 issues later, and then every 3 or 4 issues for the last 710 or so. And, in the first movie, in the Avengers, in Ragnarok, in Thor 2. Just every time you see him, basically. Not in Infinity War, but, So, I just absolutely loved this book. I thought the art was amazing. I liked the panel. If you pay attention to the panel layouts throughout, there are some really creative things being done with panel layouts in there, and it's good to notice those things. But it's a culmination. This event is the culmination of years of story that started in Thor: God of Thunder #13 back in 2013. So this is a 6-year-old story that is finally getting some traction. It's been pretty continually put on the back burner throughout Jason Aaron's run by other events, like when they do a renumbering, they'll often kick it off with some kind of dynamic arc, like the Asgard Shi'ar War. And so they'll have a War of the Realms arc, and then it'll get knocked out for 8 issues because the Asgard Shi'ar War, which was the start of Marvel Now, and then we'll get another War of the Realms arc. So it's had arcs peppered throughout, Thor and God of Thunder and the Jane Foster Thor stuff. I'm really excited to see the League of Realms coming back, because that was by far my favorite part of the Jason Aaron's Thor run in general. It's a bunch of alpha warrior types from different realms. A lot of them just hate each other based on like dwarves and trolls hate each other just naturally, and they fight together and kind of start to realize they're not so different, and it's actually kind of a nice thing. Like, the troll and the dwarf become really good friends, and I think that's all pretty good. I loved the panels with Thor, and most of all, I thought the moment with Loki and Freya was really great because they have had some rocky stuff, or a rocky relationship ever since Loki stabbed her in the back with a poison dagger, which was never revealed to her. He was actually saving her life from Malekith, because Malekith had put a hit out, or had designs to kill her, and so he said, "Oh, you're gonna kill my mom," and he's trying to get in good with Malekith for whatever reason, and he said, "Oh, you want to kill my mom? It's fine, I'll do it." And he goes there and he stabs her with a dagger, which instead of killing her, puts her in a coma. And it was Loki's way of saving her, but she doesn't know that. She thinks Loki tried to kill her and the poison failed. So this was kind of Loki redeeming himself in her eyes, and that was 2 years ago probably. So there's some big long-term plot threads being resolved in this. By the end, I'd like to see some resolution on Waziria becoming Curse after Malekith, because Malekith banished her to Hell to become Curse in place of Algrim the Strong. Wow, I'm doing pretty good. But so Waziria, who was a member of the League of the Realms, was called out by Malekith, who is her king, and he said, basically a royal edict: you can't disobey, you have to become Curse. And so she is basically the black elf equivalent, or the dark elf equivalent of Thor. So it's I'd like some resolution on that. Likewise, they're still looking for pieces of Mjolnir in the sun, and one thing I'm really hoping for is when they find that last piece of Mjolnir, it's still attached to Mangog, Mangog's got the power of a billion beings. He's still alive in the sun, I guarantee you. So what I think is, and this is my prediction, is Mangog somehow, via Mjolnir being returned, gets to Earth and sees the war of gods once again threatening the lives of billions of mortals, which is what happened to Mangog's planet millennia ago. Was Odin, during some forgotten war with the Asgardians, destroyed Mangog's planet with a billion beings on it, and Mangog he was given through some kind of, I think it was some kind of caveat from Odin, if I recall. This is like Thor 160. But through some caveat from Odin, he was given the power of all of his fallen kinsmen. So he has the power of a billion beings, which is enough for him to full-on trade blows with Odin himself. And his destiny is to one day kill all the gods and pull the Odin sword and kick off Ragnarok. But he has to kill Balder first. Because Balder dying signifies the start of Ragnarok. I guess that's all I got to say about War of the Realms. Was that enough?
Oh, all?
All right.
30 minutes later? No.
Matt, what did you think of War of the Realms? Tell me about
I
it.
really enjoyed this. Like you were saying, Jason Aaron has been writing Thor since 2012. Late 2012. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, the story has been building and percolating for 6.5 years. Who knows how many volumes and renumberings, thank you, Marvel, of Thor. Countless. Too many. Lots of other stories kind of shifting the focus away from it. Jane Foster becoming Thor becoming unworthy, war with the Shi'ar, etc., etc., etc. And it was kind of frustrating as a reader because, Aaron started this story so long ago, and like you were saying, these other things just kept happening, and it was like, well, what's going on? What do it? Come on, just let this happen. But looking back on it now, and what he's doing is setting this war as the backdrop for this entire other story with Thor and his loss of faith and loss of godhood that has really been the centerpiece of Aaron's run, going back to that original Thor God of Thunder series in 2012, which was an absolute masterpiece, and stands up there with the best Kirby and Simonson Thor you can possibly imagine. So, yes, it's been a frustrating road to get here with lots of little detours, but I kind of look at it now as a story that's set against World War II or something like that, where World War II is happening and we're cognizant of it and it informs the goings on, but it's not necessarily the focal point. Well, now it is the focal point. All of the realms have fallen except for Midgard, and it's going to be up to Thor, Freya, Earth's heroes, of course, to save the day. And that's a lot of patience for Jason Aaron to have asked of us readers. And he almost hits a home run, a perfect home run with this first issue. I really, really enjoyed it. There's a ton of awesome in it. It just didn't quite blow my mind like I was hoping it would have. Something similar would be Jonathan Hickman's Secret War #1, which spun out of 80 plus issues that he'd been writing of Avengers over the course of the last 3 years. That issue hit me like a bolt of lightning when I first read it, because it was just such a perfect culmination of everything and all the stakes that he had been building towards. This issue didn't quite hit that peak for me, but it was still a really, really damn good comic. It might be a little inaccessible to someone that hasn't been reading Jason Aaron's Thor run, but at the same time, I think there's enough information given and exposition that it wouldn't be too big of a mountain for someone to climb. Russell Dowderman's art is absolutely fantastic. He had the unfortunate timing of joining Jason Aaron on Thor after the great Esad Ribic. I never know how to pronounce his last name. You all know who I'm talking about. Whose art is just about as close to flawless as you can get. But Dowderman is awesome, and he draws outstanding Norse mythology stuff. So I've got really high hopes for this. This is an event series that feels earned rather than a cheap cash grab. So yeah, I very much recommend it. Cody, what'd you think?
I thought the art was really great. I thought JJ took my one real positive, right? Like the layouts I thought were really, really cleverly done. This book was fine. I'm not a Thor fan. I've gone through moments of being into Thor comics, but very brief moments. My biggest gripe with this is I think that Jason Aaron writes terrible fucking dialogue. I think his dialogue is bad. And I have always thought that. I've thought that since, 2008 or so, when I read my first Jason Aaron stuff, when they was being touted as, the second coming of Garth Ennis, and he was taking over all of Garth Ennis books after Garth Ennis jumped off Wolverine. He was taking over Ghost Rider, stuff like that at the time. And I just wasn't feeling it then, and I'm not feeling it now. And that's me. That's me and my personal taste. I just can't get into a Jason Aaron book. I feel like if you meet Jason Aaron in real life, he would be walking away from an explosion, but he might look back.
I'm pretty sure if I met Jason Aaron in person, we'd be like best friends forever.
I think that's probably true.
Yeah,
we like beer and throwing stuff at stuff. It's gonna be great. Jason Aaron, let's hang out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to shit all over Jason Aaron, because I think that for the people that are into Jason Aaron's work, they're really into Jason Aaron's work. I'm just not one of those people. It never resonated with me. Freya said, "Hell nay." Does that sound like something you can imagine Freya saying ever in a million years? I just can't. It doesn't work for me on a lot of levels. I thought his Spider-Man was super irritating, super duper irritating, and especially when you put it next to Tom Taylor's
Spider-Man is
Spider-Man right
irritating,
now.
though. Spider-Man is super irritating.
But he's not always super irritating. Like Bendis didn't write him irritating.
Which
Tom Taylor's
Bendis?
not writing it. I was talking about the Ultimate
He's
Incarnation,
super
but
annoying in Ultimate.
I didn't find him irritating in Ultimate. I find him super irritating in this book.
Yeah.
And I felt like, yes, the invasion force arrives, but nothing really happened. There's the thing with Loki, but I mean, like John Jack said, ain't nobody falling for that. Nobody buys into that. Like that's not a major earth-shattering event in this book. Like nothing happened. It was all set up. It was all exposition. I mean, and to Matt's credit, it is it's set up to be accessible to the non-Thor readers in that sense, but also in that sense, it spends so much time in exposition that it just doesn't. It didn't feel like it went anywhere for me. Bad guys are here. The heroes are responding. Well, no shit. That's every event. That's how every event starts. So I mean, it just didn't click with me. It's fine. The art was really nice. I'm probably going to continue to read the core series and maybe one or two of the tie-ins, but I'm not, waiting with bated breath for number 2. So if that's, I'm sure JJ wants to kill me, and I get it, JJ. Like I feel the same way when people bash on, like
No,
the curse of
not at
man
all,
or,
man. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. That's totally fine. I'm not here to rag on your ragging. No, by all means.
Well, and more importantly, like even if we did get into a heated and or scholarly debate over the merits of Jason Aaron's writing or whatever, whose opinion is really going to change?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Whatever. That's not what we're here to do.
Yeah, there was actually.
This is not the hill to die on.
Right, for sure. Exactly. There's at some point during this week I mentioned after I read it that if you're a Jason Aaron fan, you're gonna love this. If you're not a Jason Aaron fan, it's not gonna change your opinion.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think that's fair.
So, and that's where I stand with it, and it's cool. That's fine. You want to talk about something highly polarizing? Our next book is Major X.
I don't know about highly polarizing. That's going to be like, does anybody like this? I haven't seen a single.
Not only are there people that like this, but number 1 and number 2 sold out and went to second pressing before number 1 was even on the stands. Like, I mean, maybe they shorted the run.
People?
I don't know. I mean, they're out there. I see them on the groups, see them in the groups talking about how much they love Liefeld and how, wonderful. We got to return to 92. Yeah.
Yeah. I've actually got a childhood friend that got to meet Liefeld at a signing down in the Dallas area for Major X. He's like, I love this guy's art. I just like, well, okay. It's nice that you, okay. Yeah. To each their own.
Mm-hmm.
They are
for sure. So Major X is written and drawn by Liefeld, which is for me signal number 1. Like, might not be rushing out for this one. Written and drawn by Liefeld, it introduces the character of Major X, who's from some form of alternate parallel timeline, universe, dimension, something of that nature, and it's fallen apart. So he gets on his mother bike, which couldn't help but think mother box, like just kind of dipping into another theft. That's kind of what he does. That's fine. He gets on his mother bike and he's riding with his future parallel version of Beast, like M''KOI or KOY or however you spelled it. And they shunt over to 1992, our 1992 X-Men world, where Cable is there with all the original X-Force guys. A fight ensues. Deadpool shows up. A character named Dreadpool shows up. I don't know where he's coming from. Somewhere, some kind of thing. And there's fighting and blah, blah, blah. And then Major X finally is just like, no, but Cable, really, like, I would really respect your work. And I need your help to keep my world from falling apart. And also, bloop, I'm your son from somewhere, some future, somehow, somewhere. And here's another fucking Summers, because we needed more Summers. There's not enough of them running around.
This isn't even the first Cable's son.
Is it? No.
Nope.
Although, to Marvel's credit, they have kept Tyler dead for a really long time.
Yes,
like,
they have.
Like, what was it? Wolverine 100, right? Like, we haven't seen him since then. That's amazing. Yeah, sure did. Why?
And then real silly.
Yes. Yes, it did. So, I mean, yeah, my hot take on this is that the writing was just god-awful. Like, even if we were in 1992, the writing of this was god-awful, but that's what you should expect from Rob Liefeld. Like, I read all of his New 52 travesties, his Hawk and Dove, his Savage Hawkman, his Deathstroke. Oh my God, his Deathstroke. The man's not a good writer. He is a great idea man, I think. Assuming that his ideas aren't shared necessarily, like the lion's share isn't going to the co-creators like Fabian Nicieza, etc. He's a great idea man. The execution of those ideas, the actual writing of those ideas should never be left to him. It's just not his lane. Stay in your lane. I felt like his art has developed in some ways, like, you know, cue all the no feet jokes, capes, pouches, whatever. But I mean, like, his art was cleaner than I'm used to. His anatomies were closer to human anatomies. There's growth. There is definite growth, although it's still a style that doesn't appeal to me. And not enough growth to justify 30 years in the industry. So, I mean, do with that what you will. I was not a fan in any capacity. The art was the best thing going for it. I don't know. Matt, you got anything wise to say about Major X?
Wise? No. No, I don't. This was every inch a Rob Liefeld comic. To that end, I knew exactly what I was going to get when I went into reading it. The art was bad. The anatomy was wonky. The writing was, well, there were words on the page. The plot was so vague as to be almost non-existent. I mean, more than half, I'd say 75% of this comic was just people fighting and saying things to each other. I guess that Major X, you know, being revealed as Cable's son is supposed to be from the point in the future after Cable's left, although he might also be from an alternate timeline. The story doesn't really bother to clarify that, or, you know, maybe that's intentional, although I kind of lean towards not, because Liefeld does have a tendency towards laziness, and this is evidenced on page 2 on the big double spread of Major X, where he's holding his hand up like this and he has a gun in his hand, except Liefeld didn't bother to draw the part of the gun that he's actually holding. Let that sink in for a second. There's essentially this, and he's even got the hand open in such a way that you should be able to see where the gun is being held, and he just didn't fucking bother to draw it. There's also
maybe he's doing a Batman Begins with a stapler.
Maybe. No, he's really not. That's giving him too much credit. There's also some pages in there where Cable's arm is about the middle of his cybernetic arm specifically is about in the middle of his torso instead of where it should be connecting at his shoulder. And instead of fix it, he just said, fuck it, it's blocked by a shoulder pad that goes down to his belly button, so I'm just going to leave that. Whatever. And like you were saying, Cody, this guy's been drawing comics professionally for actually over 30 years now, believe it or not. There's no excuse for this level of laziness. And you know what? Here's the thing. I think Rob Liefeld gets an unjustified amount of hate. He was super young when he got really famous and started making ass loads of cash. And if you were super young doing your thing and you were making all this money and all these naysayers were saying, no, you don't do that. Your art is bad. Your writing is bad. Who are you going to listen to? The naysayers or yourself doing that thing that's making you all of the monies? I don't think there's many of us that could say that we wouldn't just keep doing our thing. So, and to be honest, I've read interviews with him. I've listened to several podcasts with him. He's a nice guy and he's really personable. Knows a lot about comics history, which is not something that you would expect reading his comics at all. But he does. And he has a genuine passion for the medium. And he doesn't get enough credit for those things. Is his art bad? Yes.
I will also give him credit for he knows how to make fun of himself to a degree, as referenced by the patch.
Absolutely.
Or the pouch, I mean.
Yeah.
Although he did not
absolutely.
respond. He did not respond when I asked him on his Facebook profile picture why no one in his family photo has feet.
That's pretty funny. Good one. But and actually one other thing, and this is kind of, yes, the art's not good, but at the same time, I know a Rob Liefeld drawing when I see it. And honestly, in the grand scheme of comics, there's a much shorter list of artists whose style you can identify like that versus artists who are either generic or don't have their own style. Or they do just enough to get the job done. And, for better or worse, Rob Liefeld is on that shorter list. So Major X, not a good comic at all. And I think that even on a Rob Liefeld standard, he's clearly not trying that hard other than to churn something out that's going to get him paid. And that's sad. He should know better than that at this point. And the fact that he doesn't appear to is just sad. It means he's just coasting. There was one minor thing that did make me smile, and that's after Deadpool shows up and he's trying to unmask Major X. He says, "Slade, is that you?" That's almost clever. Almost.
If I could interject, the one thing that I meant to say and didn't was that, part of me wonders if this entire thing is a parody / like meta commentary on his career, which is essentially built on taking Deathstroke, changing his outfit and changing a couple letters in his name.
Yeah.
And remarketing him and making a lot of money off of that. So I mean, when Dreadpool shows up, that is in a way a bit of a meta commentary on his career. So maybe this is all tongue in cheek and maybe this is all intentional. It doesn't make it good, but perhaps it's not just coasting, but also kind of a, I don't know, deeper level of jokes, like self-emulation, jokes on you.
Really good point. I hadn't considered that, but mostly because I don't dovetail, insightful meta commentary with a Rob Liefeld comic. But this comic was not good. If you're a Rob Liefeld fan, power to you, enjoy it. Clearly somebody's Somebody is, because those first 2 issues sold out their first printings. Absolutely insane to me, and I think to everybody else here. But hey, it is what it is. John Jack, what do you got?
I have very few notes on this book. I didn't like it. Um, I didn't have any specific complaints on the art, but just his general style, I'm not really a fan of. I don't know. It's fine. It's honestly better than some of the really bad stuff I've seen from him, and it's better than his recent Superman variant covers, which I own for reasons, but I don't like at all. Um, except by those. Uh, but
Okay.
like you said 75% of the issue was fighting. The other 25% was a motorcycle ride with no dialogue. The fuck is that? Like, and then at the end of the motorcycle ride, not Beast, somehow jumps him, and they time travel or something. You know what the X-Men don't need? More time travel fuckery. My God. Who the fuck looked at the X-Men and said, you know what we need more of? Fucking time travel stories, alternate futures, pocket dimensions, space travel. Nonsense. You know what I'd be fine with? What else we don't need is more Summers children. We don't need more people with X in their names. We don't need more people with samurai swords and fucking guns. It's stupid. I hate it. I'm mad I read this book and I'm never going to read another one. All right, let's talk about the next book.
One final note. Yes, those first 2 issues did sell out. I don't know what the print run was on those issues. That could have been shorted on the print run in order to force a second printing, in order to build hype. I would not put that past Marvel at all. So we'll see what happens when Comic-Con puts out next month's numbers. I'm very curious to see where Major X actually falls in the sales charts. But moving on, so Section 0, number 1. This is an Image comic publication. And originally in 2000, this was launched as a Guerrilla Comics publication, which was an imprint of Image. It's written by Carl Kessel. It's drawn by Tom Grummett. Yeah, you heard that right. Kessel and Grummett together, which is guaranteed to be a solid combination. If not, knock your socks off, it's going to be good. The alternate covers are insane. I think number 2 has a George Perez cover. We've got, oh, help me.
There was
Mike
a Simonson cover.
Yeah, Simonson cover.
Mike
what's the name?
drew a dog for number 2.
Yeah. Like
it's the dog. It's Bitey. My buddies over at Weird Science are really pushing for Bitey to join the team with a talking box like an up, and I think that'd be the best possible thing they could possibly do.
Man, he said Bitey, and all I could immediately think of was the monorail episode.
I call the big one Bitey.
Yep.
You guys are ridiculous. All right, so this book was originally set for 5 issues. Only 3 issues were released before Guerrilla Comics went tits up. And then last year, they started pushing a Kickstarter or an Indiegogo or whichever it was to release new material, to release a prequel. Kessel and Grummett never really let this thing go. They're a dog with a bone in this story. And after reading the first issue for the first time, I can see why. They have a story that has a lot of potential here for a lot of interesting stuff and a lot of expansion. It just never quite worked out. The timing never worked out. So Image has stepped in and they've started reprinting them. We only have the solicits through June. So we only know number 1, number 2, number 3 for sure. But I'm assuming that they're not reprinting these because there's not going to be a 4 and a 5. So, fingers crossed. Hopefully, they get to finish their story because it's good. It's essentially a United Nations small team sent to investigate paranormal activity. Not necessarily paranormal, but aliens, monsters, etc. It's got a lot of shades.
Cryptozoology.
Right, cryptozoology. It's got a lot of shades of planetary in it. but what if Planetary was not a private organization, but a UN sanctioned, although, Black Ops, Wet Works off the grid team? So, I mean, yeah, there's not a whole lot that happens in this first issue. They have a couple of plot threads that they start, things that they're investigating. They bring in a new team member. Presumably, I assume that the Flyboy is going to stick around. It was really enjoyable. Like, the art is exactly what you want from a Tom Grummett drawn book. And the writing is exactly what you want from Carl Kessel. Like, if you know the two and if you're familiar with their work, there's no reason you would be disappointed with this purchase. So, fingers crossed. I hope that this one carries through. I really enjoyed it, and I will be buying them, and I'll probably be looking for the first prints of 1 through 3. JJ, because I'm about to lose my voice here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I hope you feel better. Sorry, I'm too nice sometimes, especially after yelling. I really liked Section Zero. It's got a nice X-Files meets BPRD slash Planetary kind of vibe, which is very timely. For the late 2000s or late 90s to the year 2000. Sorry, which is when it was originally written and drawn. The art I really like. It is a little bit on the dated side, but I think that kind of works in its favor because it totally does feel like something out of like early Image or something like that, which I feel like that's kind of something Image has moved away from in a lot of ways. Like, you don't get a lot of like Wildcats-esque. I mean, obviously Wildcats and all that is DC now, but you don't get a lot of those. Like, it's obviously kind of a knockoff team, but it's like a knockoff, like 5 or 6 different things jumbled together. So you can't quite put your finger on what's familiar about it, but it's familiar somehow. That's kind of the feel that this book nails in a really excellent way. I liked the Bug Boy a lot. Although he does appear to be like 14, so having him join a paramilitary organization is a little strange. And I like how he's going out on he's like there for maybe half an hour, it seems like, and then he's getting called out to active duty. No free meals on this train. I felt like there was a decent amount of exposition, but at no point did I feel like I was being like overly explained to or talked down to, and it just ended up excuse me, sorry, it just ended up feeling more like some solid world building. You're going from 0 to 60 with a series like this, and I thought the cryptozoology angle is kind of interesting. They're chasing some kind of wild cat in Australia where like panthers and stuff like that are reported, and there's I believe there's one in New Jersey. We get reports of them here, although we have cougars where I am. There's the moors of Scotland have tales of giant cats, stuff like that. So, it's not an unheard of phenomenon. And centering it on Ayers Rock kind of helps intensify the Planetary vibe because there's a chunk of Planetary that took place involving Ayers Rock as well. But all in all, I thought it was a really fun read, and I when we get our previews in, we get previews as reviewers. I'll skim and look for any number ones that I haven't heard about, and I'll read them. And this one, I liked it so much, I immediately hopped on the site for my local comic shop and ordered issue 1. Like, I was like, wow, this is good. If I like a book like this, I'll put my money into it, and I'm happy to do it, or happy to get it, and help show Image. I know that this book was a Kickstarter book at one point, or a Indiegogo. But they also had a 1950s set prequel series on that Indiegogo that is, I think, no longer on Indiegogo. So I'm curious if there will be a sequel to this if this does well. So I think, if there's one of the 3 books tonight that we talked about that you're going to buy, it should be this one. These guys definitely need your money more than Marvel. Not that this book didn't do well. I have no idea what the sales figures are, but, this is a book that deserves to succeed, I think. What did you think, Matt?
Well, I hate to be the spoiler, but it didn't do a heck of a lot for me. I didn't dislike it, but a lot of its anachronistic qualities, because the thing was originally published 19 years ago, kind of took me out of the story a little bit. And it's different. It's hard to explain because obviously when you read a back issue that was published in 1984 or whatever, it's going to have the trappings of that time. But, and so conceptually this was the same type of thing. But I don't know, just seeing things like fax machines or, landline phones, the UFO, the alien dude that looks like he's on the cover of a 311 album. It was kind of that, and just the general X-Files-ness of it made it feel almost like this book should have been published in about 1995 or 94 rather than even 2000. And it was fine. Like, the setup, I think, is a good idea. The characters really didn't do anything for me. Like, the main guy, I don't even remember his name, just kind of like a stereotypical cool guy with attitude and sunglasses that he wears inside and a soul patch. And then, they didn't work for me. The bug kid, it caught my attention too, that he was in their secret base for like 5 minutes and he was being whisked away on a mission, which seems incredibly irresponsible. I have to say though, I did kind of dig his origin. He got this tattoo from a mystery purveyor of mystic arts or something like that, and it turned out that he got a special secret magic tattoo that when he touches it, he turns into a fly for 24 hours, which then cued a massive groan from me because he said as dramatically as possible that he became a 24-hour bug.
Oh, come on, that's hilarious.
It is, but it's not.
It's so dumb, but it's so hilarious and dumb.
If there had been a beat where, I don't know, the other characters had heard him say that and were just responded to it with disbelief or something like that, yeah, but it just, it's just not, it just wasn't my bag. I do really think that Carl Kessel and Tom Grummett deserve all the props in the world as creators for sticking with this comic 19 years later and resurrecting it and bringing it back and finishing what they started. I absolutely cannot give them enough credit for doing that as creators. So just because this wasn't for me, it doesn't mean that it won't be for anyone else by any means. It just, it wasn't a Matt comic. I'll leave it at that. So, Cody, final thoughts.
Yeah, one thing that I'm really interested in seeing is if we do get to number 4 and number 5, like how the styles adapt from a book that was written 19 years ago into a book that's being written today. But
well, I did reach out to Carl Kessel asking for an interview regarding this series on Twitter, just because I'm so curious about exactly what you're saying. And my first question is, was the entire series created in completed in 1999 and only the first 3 issues saw print, which is possible.
Right.
So, and also they've been doing an Indiegogo for it for like a few years now.
Right.
So even if but I'm so curious just what the process is, and it's so super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Like how often does a book get a second chance like this? Like,
Right.
Well,
Yeah, for sure. Almost never.
especially a very relatively minor book that very
Yeah.
few people remembered.
Yeah,
And
it's not like
who
not like
even remembered Guerrilla Comics, to be honest with you. You know, it
except for
didn't last
Matt.
very long, even though it had this very stacked roster of talent.
Matt remembers.
Yeah.
Pepperidge Farm remembers.
Well played. Well, so that's it for our 3 spotlights. Let's move into what did you read this week and what are you looking forward to? I'd like to go first so that I can stop talking while I'm still kind of in a flow here. I didn't read hardly anything this week, but I have been binge watching season 7 of Game of Thrones in preparation for Sunday's season 8 launch. I watched them as they were coming out, which seems like it was like 2 years ago because it was. Rewatching that, and I've been really enjoying that. It's perfect when you're under the weather and you're kind of laid up in bed anyway. For what I'm looking forward to, because we're recording a day late, it's already out. A lot of you already have it in your hands, but Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #5 came out this week, and it was just marvelous. It was damn near perfect. So I was excited for it, and then I read it, and then I was way more hyped for it. So my review of that will be coming out real soon, sometime in the next day or so.
Since it's Wednesday, we can talk about books we get previews for.
That's right, we can. We absolutely can. So go ahead, JJ. What about you?
For stuff I've been reading, I started James Robinson's Starman run, which is on the DC Universe app. I was so the DC Universe app is trying to add a bunch of stuff to rival Marvel Unlimited, and so I was kind of dipping my toe in with something I knew I was gonna like. And right now I'm 10 issues into Starman, and I'm really liking it. So that's cool. As for stuff I'm looking forward to, I believe War of the Realms War Scrolls starts this week, and that looks really cool. I'm getting all the War of the Realms books, so almost all these are going to be War of the Realms related for the next 6 weeks or so. But but what I am not looking forward to, since we can talk about books that came out today, Detective Comics number 1001. I am so damn close to dropping this book. You let us know what you guys think. Matt, how about you?
I haven't read my copy of Detective 1001 yet, but
I read it on Friday, and
last week, I'm not super happy about the Arkham Knight. So what I've been reading is my back at you is my Detective Comics 80th anniversary hardcover. Woo! There's lots of cool stuff in there. Including...
I got that too. Did you get the Superman one?
No, I need to go back.
The Superman one was great.
Awesome.
They're both good.
Yeah, I'm loving the Detective Comics one. It's got the first appearances of luminaries like Slam Bradley and Batmite and Powwow Smith.
Crimson Cloak.
Yeah, all those dudes are in it. And it's just really awesome and a great celebration of 80 years of Detective Comics. What I'm looking forward to is American Carnage #6 came out today. This is a Vertigo series that is not getting the attention I feel like it deserves, presumably because the author, Brian Hill, has had a little bit of a difficulty catching fire. Let's just put it that way. At least as far as we've been concerned on this show and in our chats. But yeah, American Carnage is a huge level up for him. It has to do with an FBI agent who is black but can pass for white, infiltrating a white supremacist group that is secretly being fronted by a powerful politician. So it is very intense. It's got a little bit of that Ed Brubaker edge to it in terms of crime comics, and it's got wonderful art by Leandro Fernandez. I'm really digging this series. I haven't looked at sales numbers, but I kind of have the feeling that I'm one of the few who is. So if you like really ripped from the headlines crime fiction, type stuff. This is an awesome, well-written book. So that's it for me.
Awesome. Well, we're without B this week, so I'll try to nail the spiel. But thanks for tuning in. You can follow us on Facebook at Comic Watchers, at the Comic Watchers Show. You can follow us. You can visit our website at www.comic-watch.com. On Twitter at Comic Watch Ace, at C Watchers Show. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, on SoundCloud, on iTunes, on Spotify. Is that all the platforms that we're on? We're everywhere.
There might be another one, but they'll figure it out.
Yeah, right. Thanks again for tuning in, and that's it for us this week.
Bye.
Have a good one.
I did the Brian.